There is a pit in the wilderness near Dothan. It's not particularly deep, not remarkably wide. Just a hole in the ground, dry and dusty, the kind shepherds use for collecting rainwater when the seasons are kind. But in this pit, a 17-year-old boy once lay in darkness, listening to his brothers argue about whether to kill him or sell him. And above him, the sun blazed indifferently across the sky. This is not a story about a pit, though. Not really. This is a story about dreams, the kind that wake you up gasping, the kind that make you different, the kind that get you hated, the kind that come true in ways you never imagined. This is the story of Joseph, the dreamer they called him, the favored son, the slave, the prisoner, the ruler, the man who saved Egypt and condemned his own family, who forgave the unforgivable and wept when he should have taken revenge. But before we get to the palace, before we get to the famine, before we get to the reunion that will break your heart, we need to understand the family. Because this story begins long before the pit. It begins with a father's favoritism, a mother's death, and brothers who learn to hate. And if we don't understand how Joseph became the kind of person his brothers wanted dead, we'll never understand how he became the kind of person who saved them anyway. Welcome back to our channel. Your participation has made our journey here very interesting. Before we continue with the story, please support our channel by subscribing, clicking the like button, and turning on notifications. Please leave a comment and suggest other video topics you would like us to work on. Thank you for your support. Now let's get back to the story. So let's begin at the beginning. In a family so dysfunctional it makes your Thanksgiving dinner look peaceful. Picture a tent in Canaan. It's evening. The sun is setting over the hills, painting everything gold and amber. Inside the tent sits an old man named Jacob, though he wasn't always Jacob. He used to be Israel, the name God gave him after he wrestled with an angel all night and refused to let go until he got a blessing. This is important. Remember this. Jacob is a man who knows about wrestling with God, about demanding blessings, about persistence in the face of impossible odds. He's also a man who knows about deception, about favoritism, about the consequences of loving one person more than another. Because Jacob was himself a younger son, a favorite, a deceiver who stole his brother's blessing and spent 20 years running from the consequences. And now, in his old age, he's repeating every mistake his father made. Jacob has 12 sons. Well, and one daughter, Dinah, but the text spends far less time on her, which tells you something about that culture. These 12 sons came from 4 different women. Stay with me here because this matters. Leah was Jacob's first wife, the one he didn't want, the one he was tricked into marrying. She gave him 6 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Rachel was Jacob's second wife, the one he actually loved, the one he worked 14 years to marry. She struggled with infertility for years, but eventually gave him 2 sons, Joseph and Benjamin. Then there were the handmaids. Bilhah, Rachel's servant, gave him Dan and Naphtali. Zilpah, Leah's servant, gave him Gad and Asher. 4 women, 12 sons. One very complicated family dynamic. And here's where it gets messy. Jacob loves Rachel more than Leah. Always has. Everyone knows it. Leah knows it. Her sons know it. The servants know it. And when Rachel finally has a son after years of barrenness, Joseph, Jacob loves this boy more than all the others. Not just a little more. Extravagantly more. Obviously more. Painfully more. Joseph is 17 years old when our story really begins. He's the 11th son, but he might as well be the only son for all the attention Jacob gives him. The text tells us that Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the son of his old age. But that's not quite right, is it? Benjamin was born later. Benjamin is technically the son of Jacob's older age. No, Jacob loves Joseph because Joseph is Rachel's son. Because Rachel was the wife Jacob actually chose, actually loved, actually wanted. And every time Jacob looks at Joseph, he sees Rachel. Rachel, who died giving birth to Benjamin. Rachel, who is buried by the road to Bethlehem. Rachel, whose loss Jacob never got over. So Jacob pours all his love for Rachel onto this boy. And Jacob, who should know better, who lived through the consequences of his own father's favoritism, does something spectacularly stupid. He makes Joseph a special robe. Now let's talk about this robe. Your Bible probably calls it a coat of many colors. That's the traditional translation made famous by the musical. But the Hebrew is more interesting. It's kethaneth pasim, a robe with long sleeves or possibly a richly ornamented tunic, or maybe a robe that reaches to the palms and soles. The point is, it's fancy. Special. It's not the kind of thing you wear to work in the fields. It's the kind of thing a favorite son wears. A son who doesn't have to do manual labor. A son marked out as different, elevated, chosen. And Jacob gives it to Joseph in front of everyone. Can you imagine the scene? The brothers coming in from a long day of shepherding. Dirty, tired, smelling like sheep and sweat. And there's Joseph, 17 years old, wearing this magnificent robe that probably cost more than what all the other brothers earned in a year. The text says, "But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him." Could not speak peacefully. That phrase is deliberate. It means they couldn't even manage basic civility. They couldn't say good morning without it dripping with contempt. The Hebrew word for hate here is sane. It's a strong word. Not just dislike. Not just resentment. Hatred. 10 brothers hating their younger sibling with an intensity that makes every family dinner unbearable. And it's Jacob's fault. He created this situation. He knew exactly what he was doing when he gave Joseph that robe. Did he think it would motivate the others? Did he not care? Did he really not see how this would play out? Jacob, of all people, should have known. His own father, Isaac, played favorites between him and Esau, and nearly destroyed them. Jacob spent decades running from his brother's murderous rage. And now he's doing the same thing to his own sons. But here's the thing about Joseph. He doesn't help the situation. At all. Because Joseph is about to do something that will turn hatred into homicidal rage. He's going to tell them about his dreams. Joseph has a dream. Now, in the ancient world, dreams are important. They're not just random neural firings while you sleep. They're messages, prophecies, windows into the future. And Joseph has the kind of dreams that stick with you. The kind that feel more real than reality. The kind that demand to be told. So one morning Joseph gathers his brothers and says, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." Read that again. Your sheaves bowed down to my sheaf. Joseph is telling his brothers that they will bow to him. And his brothers, already hating him, respond, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" The text says, so they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Hated him even more. Their hatred has escalated. It's deepening, intensifying. And does Joseph learn his lesson? Does he think, maybe I should keep my dreams to myself? No. He has another dream. And he tells everyone, brothers, father, the whole family, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." The sun, the moon, and 11 stars. Even Jacob understands what this means. The sun is Jacob himself. The moon is likely Rachel, though she's dead, or Leah. The 11 stars are the 11 brothers. Everyone, the entire family, bowing to Joseph. And Jacob rebukes him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" Even Jacob thinks this is too much. But here's what the text says next. And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. Kept the saying in mind. Jacob is annoyed, but he's also wondering, is there something to this? Could God be speaking through these dreams? The brothers, though, they're past wondering. They're now actively jealous. The Hebrew word is kana, a burning, consuming jealousy. The kind that eats at you. The kind that leads to violence. And here's where we need to pause and ask, why does Joseph tell them these dreams? Is he naive? Is he arrogant? Does he genuinely not realize how this sounds? Or is there something else going on? Some commentators suggest Joseph is young, immature, unable to read the room. Others suggest he's deliberately provocative, throwing his favor in their faces. Still others suggest he's genuinely bewildered by these dreams and needs to tell someone, needs help processing them. The text doesn't tell us his motivation, but it tells us the result. So they hated him even more. More. Again. The hatred keeps growing. And soon it will spill over into action. Time passes. Days, weeks, maybe months. The brothers take the flocks to pasture at Shechem, about 50 miles north of where Jacob is camped in the valley of Hebron. Jacob sends Joseph to check on them. Now stop. Think about this. Jacob knows his sons hate Joseph. He's seen the tension. He heard them respond to Joseph's dreams. And he sends Joseph alone to find them in the wilderness. Is Jacob really this blind? Or does he trust that blood is thicker than jealousy? Or maybe he's testing something. Testing whether the family can reconcile. Testing whether his sons will accept Joseph's authority. If that's the test, they're about to fail spectacularly. Joseph puts on his special robe, because of course he does, and sets off. He arrives at Shechem, but the brothers aren't there. He's wandering in the fields, lost, when a man finds him and asks, "What are you seeking?" Joseph says, "I am seeking my brothers. Tell me please where they are pasturing the flock." The man says, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" And this nameless man sends Joseph north to Dothan, about 15 miles further. Some traditions say this man was an angel, directing Joseph to his destiny. If so, it's an angel sending him toward a pit, toward slavery, toward 13 years of suffering. Some destiny. Joseph goes to Dothan. And from a distance, his brothers see him coming. They see the robe first. That cursed, magnificent robe, glinting in the sunlight. And something inside them snaps. They saw him from afar, and before he came near to them they conspired against him to kill him. Conspired to kill him. Not in a moment of rage. Not in sudden anger. They saw him coming from a distance. They had time to think. Time to plan. And they chose murder. The text says, they said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams." This dreamer. They don't even use his name. He's been reduced to his most annoying quality. The dreamer. The one who claims he'll rule over us. The favorite. The pest. And they've got a plan. Kill him. Throw him in a pit. Tell Dad an animal got him. Simple. Clean. Final. And we will see what will become of his dreams. There's mockery in that line. Contempt. A kind of dark satisfaction. You think you're going to rule over us? Let's see you rule from the bottom of a pit. But there's one brother who hesitates. Reuben. Reuben is the oldest. The firstborn. He should be the leader, the favorite, but he's not. He lost his status when he slept with his father's concubine Bilhah. It was a power play that backfired, and Jacob never forgave him. But Reuben still has some sense of responsibility. Or maybe just enough fear of what Jacob will do if Joseph doesn't come home. Reuben says, "Let us not take his life. And then, shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him." The text tells us why. He intended to rescue Joseph and restore him to his father. Reuben is trying to buy time. Trying to save Joseph without directly opposing his brothers. It's a coward's compromise. But it works. The brothers agree. So when Joseph arrives, happy to see them, probably calling out a greeting, they grab him. They strip off the robe. The hated robe. The symbol of everything wrong in their family. And they throw him into the pit. Stop. Let's stay with Joseph for a moment. He's at the bottom of a pit. The sides are steep, maybe 12 feet deep. The walls are dry stone and packed earth. Above him, the circle of sky is blindingly bright. He can hear his brothers talking. He can hear them laughing. Backslash. He's probably shouting. Pleading. Asking why. Promising he'll change. Begging them to let him out. The text doesn't record his words. But later, 20 years later, the brothers will remember. They'll say to each other, "We saw the distress of his soul, when he begged us and we did not listen." Joseph begged. He was terrified. Desperate. And they sat down to eat. That's what the text says next. Then they sat down to eat. They threw their brother in a pit and had lunch. Can you imagine the callousness of that? Joseph is screaming from the pit, and they're passing bread, discussing the weather, acting like this is a normal day. What kind of hatred does that? The kind that's been building for years. The kind that's been fed by favoritism and arrogance and jealousy until it's not even personal anymore. Joseph has become a thing to them. A problem to solve. Not a brother. Not a human being. Just the dreamer who needs to be disposed of. And as they're eating, they look up and see something that will change the plan. A caravan of Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites are traveling south to Egypt. Their camels are loaded with spices, gum, balm, and myrrh. The luxury goods of the ancient world. The kind of cargo that fetches high prices in Egyptian markets. And Judah, remember Judah will come back to him. Judah has an idea. What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. Our brother. Our flesh. Judah is appealing to their biology. But notice he's not appealing to love. Not to mercy. Not even to morality. He's appealing to profit. What profit is it if we kill him? The Hebrew word for profit is betza, gain, advantage. Judah is running a cost-benefit analysis. Dead brother equals no profit. Sold brother equals profit plus he's gone forever plus we didn't technically kill him so maybe we can sleep at night. And his brothers agree. They pull Joseph out of the pit. Can you imagine his relief? For a moment he probably thinks they've changed their minds. They're letting him go home. But then they bind him. They bring him to the Ishmaelites, and they sell him. 20 shekels of silver. That's the price of Joseph. 20 shekels. The going rate for a slave his age. For comparison, later in the Torah, the price for killing someone's slave was 30 shekels. Joseph is worth less than the compensation for a dead slave. The Ishmaelites pay. They take Joseph. They add him to their caravan. And Joseph, 17 years old, betrayed by his own brothers, bound and being led away to a foreign country where he doesn't speak the language. Joseph disappears into the south. The text doesn't tell us what he's thinking, what he's feeling. But we can imagine, can't we? The terror, the confusion, the betrayal. His brothers, his own brothers, the ones he grew up with, the ones who should protect him. They sold him. And as the caravan moves away, as Joseph is swallowed by distance and dust, his brothers have a problem. They have to tell their father something. Reuben returns to the pit. Maybe he was away when the sale happened. Maybe he deliberately absented himself, unable to watch but unwilling to stop it. Either way, when he comes back, Joseph is gone. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and where shall I go? Where shall I go?" Reuben is panicking. He's the oldest. He's responsible. How does he explain this to Jacob? But the other brothers have already figured out their story. They take Joseph's robe, the special robe they stripped off him before throwing him in the pit, and they kill a goat. They dip the robe in the goat's blood. Look at the deliberateness of this. The calculation. They're creating evidence, staging a scene, crafting a lie that will be believable. Then they bring the robe to their father. They don't tell him what happened. They just present the evidence and let him draw his own conclusion. "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." Your son's robe. Not our brother's. Not Joseph's. Your son. They're distancing themselves, creating separation between them and the crime. Jacob recognizes it immediately. It is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces. And Jacob does what any parent would do. He tears his clothes. He puts on sackcloth. He mourns. The text says, he mourned for his son many days. Many days. Not a few days. Not a week. Many days that turned into weeks, months, years. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. All his sons. The very sons who caused this are now pretending to comfort him. Can you imagine the scene? Jacob weeping, inconsolable. And his sons standing around, patting his shoulder, making sympathetic noises. The same sons who sold Joseph for 20 shekels. The same sons who dipped the robe in blood to deceive him. They're all complicit now. All guilty. All trapped in the lie. And Jacob says, "No, I shall go down to Sheol to my son mourning." Sheol, the place of the dead. Jacob is saying he'll never stop mourning. He'll carry this grief to his grave. And the text adds, thus his father wept for him. But here's the thing, Joseph isn't dead. He's very much alive. He's just in chains being taken to Egypt, about to enter a life he never imagined. And while his father weeps and his brothers pretend to grieve, Joseph's real story is just beginning. Egypt. If you're a Canaanite shepherd, Egypt is the center of the world. Its power, wealth, civilization. Its monuments that scrape the sky, cities that sprawl for miles, a river that never fails. It's also slavery, cruelty, and gods with animal heads. The Ishmaelites bring Joseph to Egypt and sell him again. This time to a man named Potiphar. The text is very specific about Potiphar. He's an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. In Hebrew he's Sar HaTabashim, chief of the executioners. Or possibly chief of the royal butchers, the men who slaughtered animals for the palace. Either way, Potiphar is important. He's in Pharaoh's inner circle. He has authority, wealth, status. And he buys Joseph. Now put yourself in Joseph's sandals. You're 17 years old. A week ago you were your father's favorite son, wearing a special robe, sleeping in a comfortable tent, eating well. Now you're a slave in a foreign country. You don't speak the language fluently, if at all. You don't know the customs. You have no rights, no protection, no hope of going home. You are property. This is where most people would break, would give up, would become bitter, angry, consumed by thoughts of revenge. But something happens with Joseph. Something unexpected. The text says, the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. The Lord was with Joseph. Wait, the Lord is with him? Here. In Egypt? In slavery? Where was the Lord when his brothers threw him in the pit? Where was the Lord when they sold him for 20 shekels? Where was the Lord when he was dragged away from everything he knew? The text doesn't answer these questions. It just states, matter-of-factly, the Lord was with Joseph. And because the Lord was with him, Joseph became successful. Not happy. Not free. Not home. Successful. His master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. Potiphar notices. This Hebrew slave is different. Everything he touches prospers. Every task he's given he excels at. So Potiphar promotes him. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. Overseer of his house. Joseph goes from being a slave to being the manager of one of the most important households in Egypt. And the text says, from the time that he made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in house and field. God is blessing an Egyptian house. Because of a Hebrew slave. This is important. God's plan isn't limited by national boundaries. His purposes work through impossible circumstances. Joseph is still a slave. But he's a slave with authority, responsibility, trust. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Potiphar trusts Joseph completely. With everything. The finances, the servants, the property. Everything except one thing. The text mentions, almost as an aside, now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. Handsome. This detail is about to become very important. And very dangerous. Potiphar's wife notices Joseph. Of course she does. He's young, handsome, powerful, constantly in the house. And her husband is the chief executioner. He's busy. He's probably gone a lot. He's certainly not paying much attention to what his wife does all day. So she sets her sights on Joseph. Some prisoners are there for actual crimes. Others are there because they offended someone powerful. Joseph is in the prison for the king's prisoners, probably a holding facility for people awaiting Pharaoh's judgment. And Joseph, for the second time in his life, is at the bottom. First the pit. Now the prison. He's gone from favored son to slave to overseer back to prisoner. If he has dreams now, they must be nightmares. Does he think about his father? Does he wonder if Jacob is still alive? Does he think about his brothers? Does he burn with desire for revenge? Does he question God? Does he ask why? The text doesn't tell us. But it does tell us this. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The Lord was with Joseph. Again. That phrase again. In slavery the Lord was with him. In prison the Lord is still with him. Not rescuing him. Not freeing him. Not vindicating him. Just with him. Sometimes that's all faith has to hold on to. Not deliverance. Just presence. And because the Lord is with Joseph, something happens. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. Again. Joseph rises to the top. Even in prison he becomes the leader. It's almost absurd. This pattern of Joseph being put in charge wherever he is. Potiphar's house? In charge. Prison? In charge. It's like Joseph can't help but excel. Can't help but lead. It's a gift. A calling. A capacity that emerges no matter what circumstances he's in. But he's still in prison. Still a slave. Still forgotten by everyone who matters. Until two new prisoners arrive. Two of Pharaoh's officials offend their master. The chief cupbearer and the chief baker. We don't know what they did. The text just says they offended Pharaoh, and he puts them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. Probably Potiphar's house. Maybe even the same prison Joseph is in. And the captain of the guard assigns Joseph to attend them. So Joseph is serving these men. These high officials who, until recently, had access to Pharaoh himself. They're in custody for some time. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. And one morning, Joseph comes to them and sees that they're troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today? Why are your faces downcast?" Joseph, in prison himself, unjustly accused, separated from his family for years now. Joseph notices their distress and asks about it. This is compassion. This is the kind of character that suffering has forged in him. He could be bitter, self-absorbed, focused only on his own pain. Instead, he's attentive to others. They answer, We have had dreams and there is no one to interpret them. Dreams. That word must hit Joseph like a thunderbolt. He hasn't thought about dreams in years. His own dreams, the sheaves bowing, the stars bowing, they seem like a cruel joke now. But here in prison these men have had dreams. And they need someone to interpret them. And Joseph says, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." Interpretations belong to God. Joseph doesn't claim the ability himself. He credits God. After everything he's been through, Joseph still believes God is real, God is present, God still speaks. So the cupbearer tells his dream first. "In my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Joseph interprets immediately. This is its interpretation: the 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly, when you were his cupbearer. Good news for the cupbearer. In 3 days he'll be released, restored, back in Pharaoh's favor. And Joseph, seeing his opportunity, says, "Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit. Remember me." Joseph is not superhuman. He's not content in prison. He wants out. He's asking for help. For advocacy. For someone to tell his story to someone who can do something about it. It's a reasonable request. The baker, hearing the good interpretation for the cupbearer, tells his dream. "I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head." Joseph interprets this one too. This is its interpretation: the 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head, from you, and hang you on a tree. And the birds will eat the flesh from you. From you. Not restore you. Remove you. You're going to be executed. 3 days. Same timeline as the cupbearer, but opposite outcome. One restored. One executed. And it happens exactly as Joseph said. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Joseph's interpretation was perfect. Exactly right. He's got the gift, the ability to understand dreams, to see what God is saying through symbols. And surely, the cupbearer will remember Joseph. Will mention him to Pharaoh. Will get him released. But here's what the text says next. "Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." Forgot him. Joseph asked for one thing: remember me. And the cupbearer forgot. 2 years. The text says, after 2 whole years. 2 years of waiting. 2 years of hoping every day that someone would come, that the cupbearer would remember, that the message would get through. 2 years of watching the prison door, wondering if today would be the day. 2 years of nothing. How do you live with hope deferred for 2 years? How do you keep believing that God has a plan when every day looks exactly like the day before? Joseph is now about 30 years old. 13 years have passed since his brothers threw him in the pit. 13 years. His whole adult life has been slavery and prison. The dreams he had as a 17-year-old boy, they must seem like a lifetime ago. Another person's dreams. How could those dreams possibly come true now? But then after 2 whole years, Pharaoh has a dream. Pharaoh stands by the Nile. In his dream, 7 cows come up out of the river. Fat, healthy, beautiful cows. Then 7 more cows come up. Ugly, thin, emaciated. And the thin cows eat the fat cows. Pharaoh wakes up disturbed. He falls asleep again. He dreams again. 7 ears of grain, plump and good, growing on one stalk. Then 7 ears of grain, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallow up the plump ears. Pharaoh wakes up. It's morning. And his spirit is troubled. The Hebrew word is pa'am, troubled, disturbed, agitated. He can't shake these dreams. So he sends for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. These are the professionals. The dream interpreters. The men whose job is to understand these things. Pharaoh tells them his dreams. But there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. None. The best minds in Egypt, trained in dream interpretation, expert in symbols and omens. They've got nothing. And that's when the cupbearer remembers. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office and the baker was hanged. A young Hebrew. Not Joseph. Not a name. Just, a young Hebrew. The cupbearer remembers the interpretation. He remembers it was accurate. But he barely remembers Joseph as a person. Still it's enough. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. The pit. The text calls the prison a pit, connecting it, linguistically, to the first pit his brothers threw him into. Joseph's life has been one pit after another. But now, finally, he's being brought out. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. Shaved and changed. Egyptian men shaved their entire bodies. It was a mark of civilization, cleanliness, order. Joseph has been living as a Hebrew slave, then prisoner. Bearded in rags. Now he shaves. Changes clothes. Makes himself presentable for Egyptian royalty. He's adapting. Crossing cultures. Becoming what he needs to be. And he stands before Pharaoh. The most powerful man in the world. The God King of Egypt. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, I have had a dream and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream you can interpret it. Joseph's response is immediate and humble. It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. It is not in me. Joseph doesn't take credit. Doesn't boast. Doesn't try to impress. He points to God. After 13 years of suffering, Joseph's faith is still intact. His character is still solid. He's not bitter. Not cynical. Not self-promoting. He's the same person he was, only more refined. More tested. More proven. Pharaoh tells him the dreams. The 7 fat cows and 7 thin cows. The 7 plump ears and 7 thin ears. And Joseph interprets. Joseph doesn't hesitate. The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. 7 years of abundance. 7 years of famine. The same message twice. Because God wants to make sure Pharaoh understands. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. Very severe. This isn't a minor drought. This is catastrophic. Civilization ending. Egypt depends on the Nile. The Nile floods every year, bringing nutrients to the soil, making Egypt the breadbasket of the ancient world. But if the Nile fails for 7 years? Starvation. Collapse. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Fixed by God. This is happening. It's certain. It's imminent. And then Joseph does something extraordinary. He doesn't stop at interpretation. He offers a solution. Now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine. A plan. Specific. Practical. Actionable. Store 20% of the grain during the good years. Centralize it under Pharaoh's authority. Use it to survive the famine. It's brilliant. It's exactly what Egypt needs. And Pharaoh recognizes it immediately. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God? The Spirit of God. Pharaoh, who worships Ra and Osiris and Horus, who thinks he himself is a god. Pharaoh recognizes that Joseph has something divine in him. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. Read that again. Joseph, the Hebrew slave, the prisoner, the forgotten man, is being made second in command of Egypt. See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh takes his signet ring from his hand and puts it on Joseph's hand. The signet ring, the symbol of authority, the seal that makes documents official. He clothes him in garments of fine linen. He puts a gold chain around his neck. He makes him ride in his second chariot. And they cry before him, "Bow the knee! Bow the knee!" Everyone in Egypt is commanded to bow to Joseph. The dreams. The dreams Joseph had when he was 17, the dreams his brothers mocked, the dreams that got him thrown in a pit. They're starting to come true. Not the way anyone expected. Not in Canaan with his family. But here. In Egypt. In a foreign land. Among strangers. Joseph's sheaf is standing upright. And everyone is bowing down. Pharaoh gives Joseph a new name. Zaphanath-Paneah. The meaning is debated. It might mean God speaks and he lives in Egyptian. Or, the one who knows hidden things. Either way, it's an Egyptian name. Joseph is being assimilated into Egyptian culture. And Pharaoh gives him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. On, also called Heliopolis, is the center of sun worship in Egypt. Potiphar is a high priest, a powerful religious figure. Joseph is marrying into the Egyptian elite. He's 30 years old. 13 years after being sold into slavery, he's now the second most powerful person in Egypt. And Joseph goes out from Pharaoh's presence and travels throughout all the land of Egypt. He's organizing, planning, implementing the strategy he proposed. During the 7 plentiful years the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Like the sand of the sea. Remember that phrase. God promised Abraham his descendants would be like the sand of the sea. Now Joseph is storing grain like the sand of the sea. And during these years before the famine comes, Joseph has 2 sons. He names the first one Manasseh. The name means making to forget. For God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. All my father's house. Joseph is trying to forget. Trying to move on. Trying to leave his past behind. He's successful. He's married. He's powerful. Why think about Canaan? Why think about the brothers who betrayed him? Why think about the father who probably thinks he's dead? Better to forget. Better to embrace this new life. He names the second son Ephraim. The name means fruitful. For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The land of my affliction. Even in naming his son after fruitfulness, Joseph acknowledges, Egypt is the land of his suffering. He hasn't forgotten. Not really. He's just trying to. But God hasn't forgotten. And soon, everything Joseph tried to leave behind will come looking for him. The 7 years of plenty end. And the famine begins. And the 7 years of famine began to come as Joseph had said. There was famine in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. In all lands. This isn't just an Egyptian famine. It's regional. Maybe global. Canaan is affected. Syria is affected. The entire ancient Near East is starving. But Egypt has bread. Because Joseph prepared. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you do. Go to Joseph." Joseph is now the distributor of survival. If you want to eat, you go to Joseph. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth. All the earth. People are coming from everywhere. Desperate. Hungry. Willing to pay anything. And among those who come, from Canaan, from the land of the Hebrews, come 10 men, 10 brothers, looking for grain, looking for survival. And they're about to walk into the presence of the brother they sold into slavery 22 years ago. Jacob hears there is grain in Egypt. He says to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" They're hesitating. Maybe remembering Egypt. Maybe remembering what they did. Jacob says, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die. That we may live and not die." Survival. Is that desperate? So 10 of Joseph's brothers go down to buy grain. 10. Not 11. Jacob doesn't send Benjamin, the youngest, Rachel's other son, the one remaining son of his beloved wife. Jacob has lost Joseph. He's not risking Benjamin. The text says, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Harm. Like what happened to Joseph. Jacob doesn't trust his other sons with Benjamin. Does he suspect something? Or is he just cautious? We don't know. But the 10 brothers go to Egypt. And they come before Joseph to buy grain. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Bowed themselves. With their faces to the ground. The dream. The first dream Joseph had 22 years ago. The sheaves bowing down. It's happening. Right now. In front of him. His brothers who sold him into slavery are bowing to him. And they have no idea who he is. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. He recognized them. Of course he did. They're his brothers. He grew up with them. But they don't recognize him. Why would they? Last time they saw Joseph, he was 17, beardless, in a pit, pleading for his life. Now he's 39, wearing Egyptian clothes, speaking Egyptian, clean-shaven, in power. He's Zaphanath-Paneah, the Egyptian governor. Not Joseph, the Hebrew slave. And Joseph speaks roughly to them. Where do you come from? They answer, from the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph, testing them, says, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. Spies. It's a serious accusation. Spies are executed. The brothers panic. No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies. Honest men. Joseph must be fighting not to laugh, or scream. Honest men? You sold your brother into slavery. But he says, no, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see. And the brothers, desperate to prove themselves, start explaining. We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more. One is no more. That's how they refer to Joseph. Not dead. Not killed. Just, no more. An absence. A non-existence. They can't even name what they did. And Joseph must be feeling everything right now. Rage. Pain. Curiosity. Grief. 22 years. And here they are. Still together. Still alive. While he's been suffering alone. He says, it is as I said to you. You are spies. By this you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. Or else by the life of Pharaoh surely you are spies. Bring Benjamin. Joseph wants to see his full brother. His mother's other son. The one person in that family who didn't betray him. But the brothers hear this as a threat. As a trap. And Joseph puts them all in custody for 3 days. 3 days in an Egyptian prison. 3 days to think about their situation. 3 days that must feel like an eternity. On the 3rd day Joseph brings them out. Joseph says to them, do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified and you shall not die. I fear God. Joseph identifies himself as a God-fearer. Even here, even as the Egyptian governor, he's letting them know there's a moral framework. One brother stays. The rest go home with grain. But they must bring Benjamin back. And the brothers agree. But then they say something to each other, in Hebrew, thinking Joseph can't understand them. In truth we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul, when he begged us and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. We are guilty. 22 years later they're finally admitting it. They saw his distress. They heard him beg. They didn't listen. And now they think this Egyptian's accusations are divine punishment. What goes around comes around. Reuben, who tried to save Joseph, says, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. A reckoning for his blood. They think Joseph is dead. And they think God is finally making them pay for it. And Joseph, they did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Joseph has been using an interpreter. Speaking Egyptian. Maintaining the disguise. But he understands every word they're saying. He hears them acknowledge their guilt. He hears them reference his suffering. And the text says, then he turned away from them and wept. He wept. Joseph, the powerful Egyptian governor, turns away and cries. For what? For whom? For himself? For his lost youth? For the pain they caused? For them? For their guilt? For their suffering? For the family that's broken? The text doesn't say. It just says he wept. Then he composes himself, returns to them, and takes Simeon. Why Simeon? Maybe because Simeon is the second oldest and Reuben tried to save Joseph, so Simeon bears the most responsibility after Reuben. Maybe because Simeon was particularly cruel. We don't know. But Joseph binds Simeon before their eyes and puts him in custody. Then Joseph does something surprising. He orders his servants to fill the brothers' sacks with grain, but also to put each man's money back in his sack. He gives them provisions for the journey. And they leave. The brothers load their donkeys and leave Egypt. They're going home. They have food. They survived. But they're uneasy. One of them stops to feed his donkey at a lodging place. He opens his sack to get grain. And he sees his money. Right there in the mouth of his sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us? What has God done to us?" They think they're being set up, or haunted, or punished. They have the grain. They have their money. They should be relieved. Instead they're terrified, because they know they're guilty. And when guilty people experience unexplained kindness, they assume it's a trap. They arrive home. They tell Jacob everything. About the Egyptian who spoke roughly to them. About being accused of being spies. About having to bring Benjamin to prove they're honest. About Simeon being kept in custody. And as they're emptying their sacks, every one of them finds his money in his sack. All of them. When they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob says, "You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. All this has come against me." Jacob is breaking. His family is falling apart. Joseph, gone. Simeon held in Egypt. And now they want to take Benjamin? Reuben tries to reassure him. "Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands and I will bring him back to you." It's a dramatic offer. But it's also absurd. Kill your sons? That doesn't bring Benjamin back, Reuben. Jacob refuses. "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. His brother is dead." Joseph is dead in Jacob's mind. And Benjamin is the only one left, meaning the only son of Rachel left. Jacob is not risking him. But the famine continues. And eventually they have no choice. The grain runs out. Jacob says, "Go again, buy us a little food." And Judah says, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down, for the man said to us, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.' No Benjamin, no grain." Jacob says, "Why did you treat me so badly as to tell the man that you had another brother? Why did you even mention Benjamin?" And the brothers explain. "The man asked specifically. We had to answer." Judah steps up. He says, "Send the boy with me and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and you and also our little ones. I will be a pledge of his safety. From my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. If we had not delayed, we would now have returned twice." Judah is offering himself as surety, as a guarantee. If Benjamin doesn't come back, Judah accepts the blame forever. This is significant. Judah is stepping into leadership, into responsibility. Remember Judah. We'll come back to him. Jacob finally, reluctantly, agrees. He tells them to take gifts for the Egyptian: balm, honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, almonds. The best of the land. And he tells them to take double the money, the return money plus payment for new grain. Maybe it was an oversight, he suggests. Maybe they can return it and clear up any misunderstanding. And then Jacob says something heartbreaking. "Take also your brother and arise, go again to the man. May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send back your other brother and Benjamin. If I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved." Jacob is surrendering to fate, letting go, accepting that he may lose everything. It's the prayer of someone who has no control left. The brothers take Benjamin and go down to Egypt. The brothers arrive in Egypt and present themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, "Bring the men into the house and slaughter an animal and make ready, for the men are to dine with me at noon." Joseph sees Benjamin, his full brother. his mother's other son. The little boy he left behind is now a grown man. And Joseph immediately orders a feast. But the brothers are terrified. And the men were afraid because they were brought to Joseph's house, and they said, "It is because of the money which was replaced in our sacks the first time, that we are brought in, so that he may assault us and fall upon us to make us servants and seize our donkeys." They think it's a trap. They think they're about to be enslaved. So they approach Joseph's steward and explain about the money. "Oh, my lord, we came down the first time to buy food. And when we came to the lodging place we opened our sacks, and there was each man's money in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it again with us, and we have brought other money down with us to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks. We do not know who put our money in our sacks." The steward says, "Peace to you, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has put treasure in your sacks for you. I received your money. Your God." The steward is attributing this to the Hebrew God. Is he a God-fearer? Or has Joseph told him what to say? Either way, the brothers are reassured. And the steward brings out Simeon. Then he brings them into Joseph's house, gives them water to wash their feet, gives their donkeys fodder. They prepare their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph comes home, they present him with the gifts and bow down to him to the ground. Again. They're bowing again. And Joseph asks them, "Is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? Is he still alive?" Joseph wants to know about Jacob. Is his father still alive after all these years? They answer, "Your servant our father is well, he is still alive." And they bow down again. Joseph looks around and sees Benjamin. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother, of whom you spoke to me? God be gracious to you, my son." My son. A term of endearment, of affection. And then Joseph loses control. Then Joseph hurried out, for his compassion grew warm for his brother, and he sought a place to weep. And he entered his chamber and wept there. He wept again. Seeing Benjamin broke something open in him. All the years of separation. All the loss. All the longing for family. It overwhelms him. But he washes his face and comes back out, controlled. And he said, "Serve the food." They sit down to eat. Joseph by himself. The brothers by themselves. The Egyptians by themselves. Because Egyptians don't eat with Hebrews. It's an abomination to them. And Joseph seats the brothers in order, from the firstborn according to his birthright to the youngest according to his youth. They're stunned. How does this Egyptian know their birth order? But something even stranger happens. Portions were taken to them from Joseph's table, but Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. 5 times as much. Joseph is showing favor to Benjamin. Obvious, extravagant favor. Is he testing the brothers? Will they be jealous of Benjamin the way they were jealous of Joseph? Or is he just expressing his love for his full brother in the only way he can right now? The text says, "And they drank and were merry with him." They relax. They eat. They drink. For a moment it's almost like a family reunion. But Joseph isn't done testing them yet. Joseph orders his steward, "Fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain." The silver cup. Joseph's personal cup. Possibly a divination cup used for reading signs. He's planting it in Benjamin's sack. What? To test the brothers. To see if they'll abandon Benjamin the way they abandoned Joseph. To see if they've changed. The steward does as Joseph commands. In the morning the brothers are sent away with their donkeys. They've gone only a short distance when Joseph sends his steward after them. When he overtook them he spoke to them these words. They said to him, "Why does my lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouths of our sacks we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die, and we also will be my lord's servants." They're so confident in their innocence that they pronounce the death penalty on whoever has it. The steward says, "Let it be as you say, he who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent." They quickly lower their sacks to the ground and open them. The steward searches, beginning with the eldest and ending with the youngest. And the cup is found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. They tore their clothes. The ancient sign of grief, devastation, horror. But notice, they all return. All of them. They could have left Benjamin. Could have said, "Well, he's the one who stole it. We're innocent." They could have gone home and told Jacob, Benjamin was a thief. Not our fault. But they don't. They all turn around. Together. This is different from what they did to Joseph. This time they're not abandoning their brother. They come before Joseph and fall to the ground. Joseph says, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?" Can practice divination. Joseph is maintaining the Egyptian persona. The mysterious, powerful ruler. And Judah speaks. What he says next is one of the most remarkable speeches in the entire Bible. "What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also in whose hand the cup has been found." God has found out the guilt. Judah isn't just talking about the cup. He's talking about deeper guilt. Older guilt. The guilt they've carried for 22 years. Joseph says, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father. Go home. Leave Benjamin. Save yourselves." It's the same choice they made with Joseph. And this is where Judah does something extraordinary. He steps forward and says, "Oh, my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." And then Judah tells the whole story. He tells Joseph about their father, Jacob. How he had 2 sons by his beloved wife. How one is dead, torn to pieces by a wild animal. How the other, Benjamin, is all that's left. How their father loves Benjamin beyond reason, beyond wisdom. "Now therefore, as soon as I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, then as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to Sheol. He will die." Judah is saying, if we come home without Benjamin, our father will die of grief. And then Judah says, "For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father forever. Now therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father. Let me stay instead." Judah is offering himself as a substitute. Take me. Keep me. Make me the slave. But let Benjamin go home. This is the opposite of what happened to Joseph. When Joseph was in trouble, his brothers sold him. Now Benjamin is in trouble, and Judah is offering to take his place. Something has changed in these men. 22 years of guilt has done its work. They're not the same people who threw Joseph in a pit. Joseph can't hold it anymore. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. Everyone out. All the Egyptian servants. All the officials. Everyone. This is going to be private. Personal. Raw. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. He wept aloud. Not quiet tears. Not controlled emotion. Loud, uncontrolled sobbing. 22 years of grief, rage, longing, forgiveness, all of it pouring out. And Joseph says to his brothers, "I am Joseph." 2 words in Hebrew, Ani Yosef. I am Joseph. The room must have frozen. The Egyptian governor, speaking Hebrew now, just said he's Joseph. They're Joseph? The brother they sold? Impossible. Is my father still alive? Joseph asks it again. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Dismayed. The Hebrew word is bahal, terrified, disturbed, horrified. They're in shock. This can't be real. If this is Joseph, they're dead. They sold him into slavery. Now he's the second most powerful man in Egypt. He can do anything to them. Joseph sees their terror. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near. And he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Come near." He's not trying to intimidate them. He's trying to reassure them. I'm your brother. Yes, you sold me. But I'm still your brother. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me. Joseph is reframing the entire story. You sold me. But God sent me. Your evil intentions? God used them for good. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Not you, God. This is one of the most theologically profound statements in Scripture. Joseph is not denying what his brothers did. He's not saying it was okay. He's saying God's purpose was bigger than their sin. God used their evil for good. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you, for there are yet 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. Come to Egypt, all of you. I'll take care of you. And now your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is my mouth that speaks to you. You must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt, and of all that you have seen. Hurry and bring my father down here. Tell my father. Tell him I'm alive. Tell him I'm honored. Tell him to come. Then he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. After that his brothers talked with him. He kissed all his brothers, even the ones who sold him, even Judah who suggested selling him, even Simeon who probably participated most actively. He kissed them and wept on them. This is forgiveness. Not cheap forgiveness. Not, it's fine, don't worry about it. Real forgiveness. The kind that costs everything. The kind that chooses relationship over revenge. And after that, after the tears, after the shock, after the revelation, they talked. The news reaches Pharaoh's house. Joseph's brothers have come. Pharaoh is pleased. He tells Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this, load your beasts and go back to the land of Canaan, and take your father and your households and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you shall eat the fat of the land. And you, Joseph, are commanded to say, Do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father and come. Have no concern for your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. Pharaoh himself is inviting them, offering them the best land. Joseph loads them with provisions, wagons, food, new clothes. He gives them 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of garments. To Benjamin he gives 5 sets of garments and 300 shekels of silver, 5 times as much. Again Joseph is showing favor to Benjamin. And he sends gifts to his father, 10 donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and provision. He sends his brothers away and he says to them, Do not quarrel on the way. Do not quarrel. Joseph knows his brothers. He knows they're probably already starting to blame each other. Don't fight. It's over. Come back. They go up from Egypt and come to Jacob in Canaan. And they tell him, Joseph is still alive, and he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. Joseph is alive. The son Jacob mourned for 22 years. The boy he thought was torn apart by wild animals. Alive. And not just alive, ruling Egypt. And his heart became numb, for he did not believe them. His heart became numb. The Hebrew word is pug. It means to grow stiff, to be stunned into immobility. Jacob can't process this. It's too big. Too impossible. Joseph? Alive. Ruling Egypt? It sounds like a fever dream. But then they tell him all that Joseph said. They show him the wagons Joseph sent. When he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of their father Jacob revived. The spirit of Jacob revived. Something dead comes back to life. Hope, long buried, resurfaces. And Jacob says, It is enough, Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. It is enough. Hebrew, Rav. Sufficient. Abundant. More than I ever hoped for. My son is alive. I will see him before I die. Jacob is 130 years old. He doesn't have much time. But he's going to see Joseph. Jacob, Israel, takes everything and sets out. His sons. His grandchildren. His flocks. His herds. Everything he owns. 70 people in all go down to Egypt. And when they come to Beersheba, Jacob offers sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God speaks to him in visions of the night. And God speaks to him in visions of the night. God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. Do not be afraid. God is giving Jacob permission. Reassurance. It's okay to leave the promised land. I'm going with you, and I'll bring you back. Your descendants will return. Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. You'll die with Joseph beside you. You'll see him. You'll have that moment. So Jacob continues to Egypt, and word is sent ahead to Joseph. When Joseph hears his father is coming, he prepares his chariot and goes to meet him in Goshen. And when he sees his father, Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father in Goshen. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Joseph, who has been controlled and composed through everything, weeps on his father's neck. All the years, all the loss, all the longing. Here, now, his father, alive, real. And Jacob says, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive. Now let me die, not in despair, in fulfillment. I've seen you. That's enough. I can die happy now." But Jacob doesn't die yet. He lives 17 more years in Egypt. 17 years, the same age Joseph was when he was sold. God gives Jacob back the same number of years he lost with Joseph. Joseph settles his family in Goshen, the best land in Egypt. He presents 5 of his brothers to Pharaoh. Pharaoh asks them, "What is your occupation?" And they answer, "Your servants are shepherds as our fathers were." Shepherds. In Egypt, shepherds are an abomination. Egyptians despise shepherds. But Joseph has arranged it this way deliberately. By making them shepherds, he keeps them separate from Egyptian society, preserves their identity, prevents assimilation. Pharaoh grants them Goshen. And Joseph provides for them, his father, his brothers, all their households, with food. So Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with food, according to the number of their dependents. The famine continues. It gets worse. People run out of money. Joseph buys all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh in exchange for grain. The Egyptians become Pharaoh's servants. Pharaoh owns everything. Joseph consolidates power, wealth, control. It's brilliant administration. It's also the foundation for the slavery that will come later. But in Goshen, Jacob's family prospers. Thus Israel settled in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen. And they gained possessions in it, and were fruitful and multiplied greatly. Fruitful and multiplied. The promise to Abraham is being fulfilled. In Egypt, in exile, God's purposes work even, especially, in unexpected places. Jacob lives 17 years in Egypt. He's 147 years old when he knows his death is approaching. He calls Joseph and says, "If now I have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh and promise to deal kindly and truly with me. Do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burying place. Don't bury me here. Take me home." Jacob wants to be buried in Canaan, in the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah are buried. Joseph promises. Later Jacob is told Joseph is sick. Jacob gathers his strength and sits up in bed. Joseph comes to him with his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob does something unexpected. He blesses Joseph's sons. But he crosses his hands. He puts his right hand, the hand of the primary blessing, on Ephraim the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh the older. Joseph tries to correct him, "Not this way, my father, since this one is the firstborn, put your right hand on his head." But Jacob refuses. "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. The younger over the older." It's the pattern of Jacob's entire life. He was the younger. He received the blessing instead of Esau. Now he's passing that pattern to the next generation. God's choices don't follow human expectations. Then Jacob blesses all 12 sons. He speaks prophetically over each one. To Judah he says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples." The scepter. Kingship will come through Judah's line. And eventually the Messiah will come through Judah. Jesus will be called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. All because Judah stepped up, offered himself, changed. Then Jacob dies. When Jacob finished commanding his sons, he drew up his feet into the bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. Gathered to his people. A beautiful way of saying death. Not an end. A reunion. Joseph falls on his father's face and weeps and kisses him. Then he has his father embalmed, an Egyptian practice taking 40 days. The Egyptians weep for Jacob 70 days. When the mourning period ends, Joseph asks Pharaoh's permission to go bury his father in Canaan. Pharaoh grants it. A massive procession goes up. Joseph, his brothers, Pharaoh's officials, all the elders of Egypt. They go to Canaan. They bury Jacob in the cave of Machpelah. And then they return to Egypt. After Jacob dies, the brothers start to worry. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him. It may be that Joseph will hate us. All these years they've been safe because Jacob was alive. But now Jacob is dead. Now there's nothing stopping Joseph from taking revenge." So they send a message to Joseph. "Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now, please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father." Did Jacob really say this? Or are they making it up? We don't know. But they're pleading for forgiveness. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. He wept. Again. Joseph weeps. What? Because they still don't understand. They still think he might hurt them. After all these years. After all the provision. After all the reconciliation. They still don't trust his forgiveness. And that breaks his heart. The brothers come themselves and fall down before him. "Behold, we are your servants." Your servants. Bowing down. Submitting. Offering themselves as slaves. The dreams. Fulfilled again. But Joseph says, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones. Am I in the place of God?" Joseph refuses to play God. Refuses to judge. Refuses to take revenge. "You meant evil." Yes, I'm not denying that. But God meant it for good. This is the thesis of Joseph's entire story. Human evil. Divine purpose. Intersecting, overlapping, producing outcomes no one could have imagined. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. He comforted them. Joseph doesn't just forgive. He comforts. He speaks kindly. He reassures. This is the heart of a man transformed by suffering into something beautiful. Joseph lives to be 110 years old. He sees his great-grandchildren. He lives in Egypt in prosperity and power. But Egypt is not home. As he's dying, he gathers his brothers and says, "I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. God will visit you. God will bring you up." Joseph knows. This isn't the end of the story. The family came to Egypt because of famine. But they won't stay in Egypt forever. God made a promise to Abraham. Your descendants will inherit Canaan. That promise hasn't been fulfilled yet. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, "God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here." Carry up my bones. Don't leave me here. When you go back, take me with you. I want to be buried in the promised land. So Joseph died being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. In a coffin in Egypt. Not buried yet. Just preserved. Waiting. Waiting for the exodus that won't come for 400 years. Waiting for Moses to carry his bones out. Waiting for the promise to be fulfilled. Joseph dies in Egypt. But his story doesn't end there. Because his bones will travel. And his family, the 70 people who came down, will become millions. And those millions will leave Egypt. And they'll take Joseph with them. And eventually, they'll bury him in the promised land. In Shechem, in the plot of ground Jacob bought. Home at last. So what do we do with this story? The story of a boy who dreamed too big, whose brothers hated him, who was thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned for years, forgotten by those he helped, and then against all odds became the second most powerful man in Egypt and saved his entire family from starvation. What does it mean? First, God's purposes work through human evil. Joseph's brothers meant evil. They absolutely did. Selling him into slavery was wrong. Cruel. Unforgivable by human standards. But God used it. Used their evil to put Joseph in exactly the right place at exactly the right time to save thousands of lives. This doesn't make the evil good. It doesn't excuse it. But it shows us that God's sovereignty is bigger than human sin. Our worst moments can become the raw material for God's best purposes. Second, suffering shapes character. Joseph entered slavery as a naive, arrogant 17-year-old who didn't know when to keep his dreams to himself. He emerged from prison as a wise, humble, compassionate leader who could forgive the unforgivable. The pit didn't destroy him. It refined him. The slavery didn't embitter him. It taught him empathy. The prison didn't break him. It strengthened him. Character is forged in fire. Third, God is present in the waiting. Joseph waited 13 years between the pit and the palace. 13 years of slavery and false accusation and imprisonment and being forgotten. And through all of it, the text keeps saying, the Lord was with Joseph. Not rescuing him. Not vindicating him immediately. Just with him. Sometimes that's all we get. Not deliverance. Just presence. And sometimes that has to be enough. Fourth, forgiveness is costly but liberating. Joseph had every right to take revenge. His brothers sold him. Lied to their father. Let him suffer for decades. He had the power to destroy them. But he chose forgiveness. Not cheap forgiveness. Not, it's fine, forget about it. Real forgiveness. The kind that acknowledges the wrong but chooses relationship over revenge. And in forgiving them, he freed himself. Bitterness is a prison. Forgiveness is the key. Fifth, dreams delayed are not dreams denied. Joseph dreamed at 17 that his family would bow to him. It seemed absurd. Arrogant. Impossible. And then it seemed dead. Buried in a pit. But 22 years later it came true. Not the way he imagined. Not in the setting he expected. But true nonetheless. God's promises don't always come quickly. But they come. Sixth, God uses the broken family. Jacob's family was a mess. Multiple wives. Favoritism. Jealousy. Hatred. Betrayal. Lies. It's a soap opera. A dysfunctional disaster. And this is the family through which God chose to work. This is the family that became the nation of Israel. This is the family through which the Messiah would eventually come. God doesn't wait for perfect families. He uses the broken ones. Because all families are broken. Seventh, the pattern points to Jesus. Joseph is innocent but suffers for others' sins. He's betrayed by his own people. He's sold for silver. He's falsely accused. He descends into the pit, a type of death. He rises to power, a type of resurrection. And he saves his family from death by providing bread. Sound familiar? Jesus, the son of Joseph's line through Judah, will follow the same pattern. Innocent but suffering. Betrayed by his own. Sold for silver. Falsely accused. Descending into death. Rising to power. Saving his people by becoming the bread of life. Joseph's story is a preview. A shadow of the greater salvation to come. So we return to the pit. To a 17-year-old boy, listening to his brothers argue about whether to kill him. If you had told him then that this pit would lead to a palace. That his suffering would save thousands. That his brother's betrayal would become the means of their survival. That his dreams would come true in ways more wonderful and terrible than he ever imagined. Would he have believed you? Probably not. Because when you're in the pit, you can't see the palace. When you're in the pain, you can't see the purpose. When you're in the darkness, you can't imagine the dawn. But the dawn comes. It came for Joseph. It came for his family. And it comes for us. Not always when we want. Not always how we expect. But it comes. Because God is faithful. Because God sees. Because God is weaving a story bigger than our suffering, more beautiful than our pain, more redemptive than our worst mistakes. Joseph's story tells us, you're not in the pit by accident. You're not in prison without purpose. You're not forgotten. God is with you. And what your enemies meant for evil, God will use for good. Hold on to that. When you're in the pit, hold on to that. When you're in the prison, hold on to that. When you're forgotten, hold on to that. The God of Joseph is still the God who turns pits into palaces. Still the God who uses suffering to shape character. Still the God who keeps his promises no matter how long it takes. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not this year, but one day, you'll look back and see what Joseph saw. God was there all along. In the pit. In the palace. In everything. Working all things together for good. For those who love him. For those who are called according to his purpose. That's the promise. That's the hope. That's the story. And it's your story too. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Asterisk.